Hi, Team 4. I'm Carly, and I'm going to be doing a current event presentation for week 3. So I was a little nervous, but through talking to friends and my husband and reading and doing the lectures, I'm feeling a little more confident in what I have to say today. So the current event that I chose is the one that's pretty obvious in today's world because I don't know about you, but I see stuff about this almost daily on my feed or just talking about it with friends. And that is the Black Lives Matter movement. But I also want to focus on the Black Lives versus Blue Lives Matter movement that is also making an impression and is very much a major part of the world right now. And obviously the Black Lives movement really started after the murder of George Floyd by a white police officer. And then that brought up Breonna Taylor's case and so on and so forth. And a lot of people have been huge advocates of Black Lives Matter, and I think that's great. And I think it's super important, and it's a very important movement that we need to pay attention to. But I also need, we also need to realize that, there's more to it than what we're saying there is. And there's two sides to every story, pretty much. So, something that Dr. Roby said in her video that kind of resonated with me and I found a connection to was the idea that the 1950s, most Americans thought communism isn't here in America. We had just won the war. We were victorious. We were seen as a powerhouse of the world. So, no, communism couldn't be here. We were winning. We were the best. Everyone wanted to be like us type thing. When in all reality, no, there were communists here. The Communist Party of America was here. However, McCarthy turned that 360, completely turned it around and was and it made the American people afraid. The Red Scare is a common term we use with McCarthyism and communism because McCarthy went out there and said, oh, well, I have these lists of names of people that I know for sure are in the Communist Party and they're working with the Soviet Union and they're in our State Department. And so it really brought fear into the world. And I think that's a real shame, and I feel like that's happening today in today's world with Black versus Blue Lives Matter. So people say communism wasn't here in America when it is. And people today say, well, no, racism doesn't exist in America anymore. We've come so far as a nation. We don't have racism anymore. But in all reality, racism is still very relevant in today's world, unfortunately. Yes, we've made huge strides, but it's still not a perfect system. White people are still the majority, and they still have the most power. And so, yes, racism still exists, unfortunately, in America today, even though it's 2020. So, yeah, racism isn't here is just like saying communism isn't here, because it is actually here. And so the idea of McCarthyism was that if you act out of the norm, you were a commie, and you were against the nation. And I kind of find that with the Black versus Blue Lives Matter. People who are super, super big advocates for Black Lives Matter look at a police officer and assume that they're a bad person. Oh, you're a police officer, so you kill innocent people. And it's vice versa. Police officer could see a black man and be like, oh, or a woman, and be like, oh, you have a different color skin, so you're clearly a bad person. And so I feel like there's a fear going around right now. There's a fear of cops, and there's a fear of wrongful death, and that's really unfortunate that is happening. And I just see McCarthyism connecting these two ideas even back all the way to the 1950s. And I think it's really important to look at history and see what's going on in our current events and seeing how we can change that. Just because someone's a police officer doesn't mean that they believe in the wrongful murder of people. And just because someone has a different color skin doesn't mean that they're a bad person and should die wrongfully, So I think it's important that, we have these movements, but we also need to be educated and not let fear take a role in our life. So yeah, that is my opinions and my current event. Thanks.